This is a question that I need us to discuss. Then we can also look at the concept of functions. We can have functions in a class so that we can see how instead of having just data and variables, we can also have functions. Okay, so let me share the screen. Trying to find my projects here. All right. Let me share this. So the question is going to go as follows. Question will go as follows. Right. Just trying to set myself here. Okay, so I hope that you're able to see this. It's just an example we're going to do together. Then I'm going to leave you with a question in the interest of time, because you don't have a lot of time to, wait for you to actually write a program. So we're going to say, develop a program with a class called shapes. With a class called shapes. The user should enter the shapes. It's the user who's entering, okay? The user should enter the shapes of the dimensions. The dimensions of two shapes, rectangle and triangle. The system should use a function to compute and display the area of each shape. Okay. So hint, area of rectangle is equal to what? Length times width. Area of triangle is equals to a half length times width. It's just the same way of like saying a half times base times height, right? A half times base times height. Just a minute. Okay. All right, so we are told develop a program with a class called shapes, right? And the user should enter the dimensions of two shapes, the rectangle and triangle. The system should use a function to compute and display the area of each shape. All right, let's now go to the program. Let's now go to Dev C++ to our IDE and now see how that will look like. So I'm going to just copy. No, let me just come here. Let me stop the sharing and share this other screen. So I'm trying to finish up very, very fast because the session is going to end in the next 30 minutes, okay? So I'm going to have a class called what? Shapes, right? And then it's going to have attributes and functions. You can see the question? The question says and a function, you should use a function to compute and display the area of each shape. So we are going first to begin with the, we can actually declare them as int, and then we declare length and width because those are the shared attributes. Okay, those are the shared attributes, length, and then width. Okay, then I'm also going to have a function. All right, I'm going to have a function for length and to compute length and width. Okay, so I'm going to use the keyword void. So void area return length times width, and also cout. In other words, when that function is called, it is supposed to do that. Are you together? Void area length times width, and then cout. What area is equals, okay? Area of what? Area of triangle, area of rectangle. Area of rectangle is equal to get area. Why are we using get area? So that it can get the area that is going to be entered there. And then we're going to have another function. Void. So we're going to call this area 1, area rectangle, and then you're doing area triangle that way. So return 0.5 times area of triangle equals to that. Just a minute. Okay, so all right. So I'm going to have that. Then I'm going to tell the user. So of course I'm going to delete all this. Now I'm going to declare the objects. We have triangle and rectangle. The objects are the ones that are sharing those data and functions in the class. Can you see now this class has particular data? Length and width, these are data. And then area rec and area tri, these are functions. Okay, for computing area. In other words, when this function is called, it is going to do the following. It's going to do this. Okay. So we're going to declare two objects. So we are going to have shapes rectangle. Let's just go.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
In the cout area, shouldn't you write area rec and area tri?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Then we have shapes tri. Then we tell the user to enter the dimension. So how do we tell the user? We tell the user by telling him to enter dimensions for rectangle. So we can just say that, and then we see out again length, and then we can tell the user to see in length. So see in rec dot length. Rec dot length. As you can see, it has just given me that, and then also width. So see in rec dot width. It just has to bring rec dot width. Yeah, that. Then we can also do this for the next shape. Enter dimensions for triangle. Dimensions for rectangle, see out. So itakuwa try dot length. And this will be try dot width. Then there is what? The function. How do we output? Okay, so you just call that function. Okay, you call that function. So we say rec dot get area. That way. In other words, it's going to get area what? Get area rec. It's going to pick that. Okay. And then we can also do the same for this. In other words, get area rec, it's the function to call that. That code will call that function, okay, this particular function. So that when it calls it, it will compute this length times width, which is already been entered by the user, and then it will also output. Okay, and then also here we are going to call the function, which is rep, not rep, but try dot area try. Okay. So we are going to debug. I'm sure maybe it may bring some errors, but we're going to debug. That's why we are doing programming. Debugging is part of it. Okay. So let's run this. So as you can see, it has given me an error in this line. So I'm going to debug. I'm just going to see what's wrong, and then I debug it. These are the kind of components that are going to use consumption. They are going to indicate how many people are ordered for that. That is the demand. How many people have ordered for that. And the extra purchase, they will not be giving whatever they have. So they need to purchase 5% of shared public. They need to purchase 7% of student breaks. And then the quantities in here and there, you need to measurement whether you get this, whether it's in teams, whether it's in units, all that. Rate, how much per one, so you multiply that to say my voice is robotic. Somebody says my voice is robotic. So let's see what is wrong with here. So it gives me an area of something there. So let's see. So having deleted the C outs in the functions, I'm going to have the C outs in the normal code. Area of rectangle is equals to rec dot what? Dot area rec. Rec dot area rec. Then end line. And then I do the same for triangle. I will do the same for triangle. Area of triangle is equals to tri dot what? Area tri. Okay. You can see we have less than 10 minutes, so let's debug this and correct it before the class ends. So compile and run. As you can see now, it has run. Now, from my end, it has run, but before I share the screen with you, let's now go through the code. Then I share the screen with you, the code itself, and then we see the screen, the console window. So look at what I've done. I've had class shapes. Remember the question was about having a, let me share the question. So remember the question was as follows. You develop a program with a class called shapes, which means that shapes is going to contain some data and some functions, okay? So the user should enter the dimensions of two shapes, rectangle and triangle, all right? The dimensions of, I think I should have added here, length and width. Length and width. So that at the onset, you are able to know what kind of data the class should contain, all right? So, and of two shapes, rectangle and triangle. So at the onset also, you already know that rectangle and triangle are the objects, because these objects are going to share the data length and width. Both of them are going to share length and width. Instead of declaring two lengths and two widths, we just have one length and one width being shared by a rectangle and a triangle, okay? So rectangle and triangle are the objects that are sharing these data members that are inside the class. The system should also use a function to compute and display the area of each shape, all right? And of course, we were given the method for the how the area is calculated, just so that you can put them in the function. So when we were back here, when we look at let's look at the dev screen. Let me share the screen. All right, there we go. So when we have this screen, you can see that I've first declared the class shapes, okay? Then inside, remember the keyword public. Public helps the compiler to recognize, and also it makes these members visible globally within the code, okay? That's what it's called public. In other words, all these members can be accessed globally from the main method, all right? From the main method, and here we have the main method. So I have the class shapes. Inside I have public keyword and a colon, very important. Then I have the shared data. The shared data is what? Length and width, okay? And I've declared them using it, all right? You can see we have less than 6 minutes remaining. And then we need a function to compute what? We need a function to compute the area of each, okay? But now, because you remember in the question, we have two different kinds of computations. The area of rectangle is not the same as the area of triangle. The computations for finding area of rectangle is different from the computation of finding area of triangle. You notice that? So because of that, we should not have one function but two. One for the area of rectangle and another for the area of triangle. Otherwise, if we wanted one function for both, that the area of the same way we calculate the area of the rectangle, the same way we calculate the area of triangle, we could just have one function, okay? But because we have different computations, we have two functions. So we have a function for computing the area of rectangle. Why have I put it as a float? I have declared this function as a float because we are expecting that after it computes here, return length and width. Return is a keyword. Everything you can see in black, in black here, in bold black is a keyword, or green or blue, it's a keyword. Apart from, of course, these ones which are user defined. So its length. So I've had float area rec. However, this just the same way you would declare an area of a rectangle. The same way you declare that, you declare the same way you declare a variable, you declare a function. Okay. The same way you declare a variable, you declare that function. Okay. So you see, I've just declared using a word, area rec. I could just have said float area rectangle, anything that, just the same way you declare a variable. And then it ends. Every function should end with a opening and a closing curly brace, meaning that there are parameters within it that are being computed. Okay. It's just basically the syntax. And then return length times width. Return is to compute. Okay. So when it sees the keyword return, it basically knows that it should compute length and width, just as you've given it here, length asterisk width, which is length multiplied by width. And then you close. So can you see how a function is normally written? Okay. You have the type, you have the name of the function, the opening and closing curly brace. The parentheses, to show that there are parameters within the function. In others, there are computations inside it. And then you open the curly brace. You have return keyword because you are performing a computation, return length times width. Then you close. Then now this is the other function, float area try, and then we have given it its computation or its specification, right? Then after doing that, you close the class. So can you see all this was inside the class shapes? All this was inside the class shapes. Then you close the class. So this class has what? Attributes, and it also has functions, right? And then now you go to the main method, where you declare the objects that are sharing the data, that are sharing these members. These are called members. Whatever you have in a class, they are called the members of that class. Okay. So we have shapes rec and shapes try. You remember we named the objects with the prefix of the class. Okay. So if class was called shapes, then the object will also begin with the name shapes. And this is the concept of inheritance. Just the same way you, as a child, you have the name of your parent somewhere to identify you to that parent or to that lineage. So this is the concept of inheritance. Okay. So shapes rec and shapes try. Then we, of course, tell the user to enter the dimensions. Then the user enters the dimensions. Then after that, you just say cout area of rectangle is equals to. So we are using this particular function to compute the area. All right. So we just say rec dot area rec. This was the function to compute the area. Okay. So the compiler knows it. The compiler recognizes it. So when you say rec dot area rec, it will just go here. It will go here and find what the user entered for length and width, and then compute them, length times width. Okay. We do the same for the triangle. Then its area of triangle is equals to try dot area try. And you remember area try is the function for computing. So when that function is called, so this is calling of functions, okay? Calling of functions is, it's triggering the compiler to recognize them, okay? triggering the compiler to recognize them and perform the computation within them. Okay, so let's now see how this runs. You can see we have less than a minute. I'm going to stop the screen sharing here so that I can yes, there is another class. Somebody is asking, Justin Karoki is asking if there is another class other than public. Yes, there is another class called private. These are not types of classes. These are just, they are called access modifiers, and I'm going to teach you, all right? Access modifiers, it's a concept of inheritance. So public is the main one, okay? So I'm going to teach you private and protected, and those are access modifiers just as public, and I'm going to teach you that later on, okay? So yes, apart from public, there is private and protected. So here we have less than a minute. Allow me to share allow me to create another session. Or as a recurring meeting.